Hey everyone, welcome to the first episode of our new research podcast series for the Australasian Humour Studies Network, the AHSN. I'm Ben Nickl, your host, and in each episode, my co-hosts and I welcome a new guest. They've got just 15 minutes to answer 5 questions about their cutting-edge research and themselves. When the timer's up, that's it. It's a bit stressful, but heaps of fun putting senior academics on the clock. We don't edit anything out, so you'll hear it all, the good, the stumbles, and the quick intro mumbles. Quick thanks to our guests, co-hosts, and the amazing folks at the University of Sydney's Fast Media Room studio. We're recording on the lands of the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation, to whom we pay our respect as the traditional owners and custodians. That's it, on to the show and our first guest, Head of School of Arts, Communication and Media at the University of Sydney, Professor Alan McKee. Alan, over to you if that's okay.
Absolutely. What do you want to know?
Anything that you'd like to share with us about why humour, why fun, maybe also a bit of an insight in your research on any aspect of it that you'd like. I'm particularly interested in your research on entertainment, fun, how humour kind of plays a part in that. We have, again, 5 questions for you to throw your way in a moment, but maybe a general kind of introduction would be amazing for the listeners to get an idea of who you are and what you're working on.
My name is Alan McKee. I'm a Professor of Media and Communications at the University of Sydney, where I'm also Head of School of Art, Communication and English, and my most recent book was called What Do We Know About the Effects of Pornography After 50 Years of Academic Research?
Well, why don't we get started then with our first set of questions. Full disclosure, we sent those questions to Ellen in advance because, again, we are trying the impossible here, trying to be concise and brief as academics. Let's see if we can get the translational exercise going. First question, Alan, if you would, with 5 keywords or key phrases, can you describe to us and to the listeners what you're currently working on? You just gave us an idea, but just maybe 5 keywords or key phrases that we can throw out there into the ether.
Absolutely, and this is a great question, particularly for anyone who's thinking about planning an academic career, because it's important to make your work searchable. It's important to be able to reach your communities and find other people who are thinking about the same kind of things that you are. Well, first of all, entertainment, and that covers generally my interest in all forms of culture that are not art. It is still quite a binary between art and entertainment, very different forms of culture with different means of production, of funding, different business models, different modes of distribution and different aesthetics. So entertainment covers everything. And within that, fun, I'd say, is the second keyword for me, because that is probably one of the most important differences. Entertainment has fun as a key aesthetic criterion. Purpose without pleasure. Whereas art, although art might have many of the same criteria as entertainment, you can have seriality in art, for example. You can have story in art, although not so often, but it very rarely does fun. It very rarely does purpose without pleasure. But both of those are keywords that make sense to me, but they don't so much allow communities of scholars to find me, because there isn't really a community of entertainment scholars. There isn't really a community of fun scholars. And so I tend to label myself using other keywords to find people. Pornography is one of them, because a lot of my work on entertainment has been adult entertainment, because if you're looking at understanding forms of culture that are about fun, pornography is right at the heart of it. It is a genre that is designed to promote pleasure without purpose. And there are communities of scholars around that, and there is funding available around that for research. So that's a kind of strategic labeling. And similarly, digital media. Although that isn't really coextensive with the work I do, it maps over it generally, because a lot of the work on entertainment and pornography now is about how digital modes of pornography and entertainment differ from what's gone before. And digital media is a sensible community. It makes sense in the sense it makes sense to people. People can find you, and again, it's very fundable. So although my underlying interests are in entertainment and fun, my grant applications are about digital pornography, because that allows me to explore the same issues but get funded for it. And then a fifth one I was just thinking, which speaks to how things change over time. If you'd asked me 10 years ago, I would have said television, because television was a profound form of entertainment. It was like the form of entertainment that speaks to large audiences with a lot of fun. But television no longer exists in the form that it did before. Now we'd be talking about audiovisual content or social media. So that's just an interesting way in which I would have said television, but television no longer exists.
Right, there we go. Quick and concise. We're off to a good start, I think. Will, what do you think?
Yes, a flying start.
Yes.
And an appropriately pithy one. This maybe carries on with a little bit what you were talking about with the split between kind of art and entertainment and how to work with different outlets or different publishers. How great a difference do you find is there between when you're writing something that is for the conversation and when you're writing something that's maybe peer reviewed? This is as much as a writer. What's the process as a writer as much as a scholar?
I would say that in my experience, the difference is not so much between academic writing and non-academic writing. It's between writing for the social sciences and writing for the humanities. So writing for popular genres and writing for social science academic genres, I think, are very similar, and they're both very highly constrained genres. And particularly in the kind of work I do, there's particular kinds of stories they want to hear. So, for example, it's very hard to get material published in newspapers that is not saying pornography is destroying a generation of young men. So if you want to provide evidence that shows that there are different kinds of pornography which people engage with in different ways and which can have a range of different effects, it's very hard to get that story published. Classic example is a producer from an SBS show called me up one time and said, "We're looking for someone to come on and talk about how bad pornography is. Are you that person?" And when I said, "No, but I do research, I can tell what I found," she said, "Well, that's no use to us. Can you recommend somebody who will say how bad it is?" Very similar in social science publishing. Like if you're publishing a quantitative social science journal, again, you have to fit into a tradition of the kinds of questions that are asked. And those questions are all about how does pornography damage relationships? How does pornography make men more violent? The difference, I would say, is primarily between that kind of publishing and humanities publishing. Publishing in the humanities, you can basically say whatever you want in any kind of structure, making any kind of argument in any kind of way.
We'll take note. Anything.
Anything, pretty much. And that kind of allows you to be ridiculous and creative and be more entertaining, I would say, even than you can do in the more constrained genres.
This is something I touched on before. What's your knowledge process then? What do you decide? What goes where? Why? What's left on the cutting room floor?
That is a great question, and I would have to say that a lot of it is just practice, but a lot of it is also instinct. That is not a good answer, I'm afraid. But one thing I have found is that different people have different skills, different things are easy for various people. For me, structuring an academic article is like breathing. It's just so obvious and easy. So I encourage people to play to their strengths. I encourage institutions to put together teams of people who have different skills, and I encourage you, the listener, to build teams of people that you work well with so that you can balance out each other. Personally, I really struggle. What I'm not good at, or two things. First of all, I'm visually illiterate, which is why my husband dresses me every morning. But also I struggle with sole-authored research. It's not as much fun. It doesn't come as instinctively to me. I would much rather have a team of people that I'm bouncing around and engaging with and having ideas with. So play to your strengths, work out what you're good at, and build teams of people that can work with you.
Again, very precise. Ellen, you're just amazing to work with here.
Oh, Jans, you're adorable as well.
Oh,
It's a fruitful collaboration.
Yeah, very adorable.
Great team.
Next question. Again, we're going back to this idea of how humour and fun factor into a lot of the things you've been writing about. So maybe you can elaborate a bit on that. And we would be very interested to know a bit more about what kinds of knowledges you find in humour and in fun or in these concepts when you're working on your areas.
So as I mentioned before, I've been driven throughout my research in trying to understand why there's certain kinds of culture that I enjoy and certain kinds that just don't interest me. And it took me a long time to work out that the kinds of culture I enjoy are those that, since the 19th century, have been part of what we call entertainment. Entertainment, mass industrialized culture emerged in the 19th century, as did high art as a concept. That was a new idea that was invented in the 19th century. And as I said before, trying to work out the difference between those two things, one of the key differences is fun. The idea of having pleasure without purpose. And the role that that plays in my thinking is, I'd take a step back and say even it's a philosophical role, which is in my book, Fun, What the Entertainment Industries Can Teach Us About Living a Good Life, available now. It's a slim volume, very readable. I make the point that my position is that it's a fundamental question about what constitutes a good life. And philosophers have offered various answers to that, which have often been around being morally worthy or around doing the correct thing. And my position is more that a life lived without fun is lacking. That fun is a key component of a good life. Now, that does not mean that it is that one should be immoral, or that one should not pay attention to the needs of others or be empathetic. And in fact, one of the key points I make in that book is that entertainment industry has explained for us very clearly how you can have a lot of fun in ways that are empathic and ethical and contribute to the larger good in various ways, but they do not have to be purpose-driven. It's not a case of you do these things in order to accomplish something else. The point is having fun is in and of itself the end point in a good life.
Amazing.
So lucky last question. So you write about what constitutes healthy porn, and what I'm really curious to know is, how does healthy porn look? Is healthy porn also fun porn? Where do you sort of reconcile, if you like, those elements?
Thank you for a provocative question, because it was an interesting approach. The reason that we did the project was because I often talk at schools to parents about your kids and porn. And a couple of years back, one of the parents asked me at the first time, can you recommend some healthy porn for my son? And it's not something that researchers had ever researched. So that kind of prompted me. And we brought together a team of researchers, again, the team, people from adolescent health, people from sexual health, people from sex education, people from porn research and porn producers, and got them to give their answers about what kind of pornography supports healthy sexual development. And it was interesting that the humanities researchers were very uncomfortable having that discussion, because health for them was a moralistic term that often is used to judge behaviour. For a long time, gay sex was called unhealthy, for example. But we were able to get through it, able to think about it strategically, and came up with a few criteria, including the fact that healthy pornography should show a variety of sex acts, not just penis and vagina. Healthy pornography should show a variety of body shapes and genders and sexualities and races. Healthy pornography should be ethically produced. It ideally might show consent being negotiated on screen. And so it doesn't have to be boring sex in order to be healthy. You can have fun sex and still be healthy pornography.
Hear, hear. Well, there we go. And I can't believe it. I think we're at the 15-minute mark.
I think we're at time.
Fantastic. Well, that was great. You see, we brought together that academic tendency to sprawl with that popular culture, understanding that you have to be finished exactly in time for the ad break.
Yeah, there we go. It's all about that. Thanks so much. Again, you hear it. People having fun all over the place. Thanks.